You understand, Federico, what I mean when
Of course,
I say
in the afternoon
this is
time
the
here
scene in
on
which we
Sundays,
set up the
84 goes
entire
many
film
places and
plot.
does many
What
things.
you
This
do here,
afternoon,
you see this
we have
lovely
the
girl.
pleasure of visiting
Take her
the
in your
studios
arms and you say to
of
her,
Carlos LOUSY. Is that correct, sir? Carlos LOUSY?
Just a minute, I'll be with you in a moment. Yes, Carlos LOUSY. Yes, of
and you're with
Productions.
LOUSY Productions,
Yes.
I say. What are doing here exactly, sir?
We are making a film.
A film?
Goodness gracious.
You are a producer, is that right?
Yes.
A foreign producer.
What do you mean? I'm only foreign in my own country, of course.
Strange.
I am me. I've always been myself.
I see.
I'm
Strange, I was referring to strange.
Well,
Carlos, how long have you been in the filmmaking business?
oh, for many years now. You wouldn't think for a man so young.
About 2.5?
Nearly 6 months.
What was your first film, sir?
This is it.
This is your first film?
It's a beautiful film. It's called The Flaming Desert.
The Flaming Desert? Is it about somebody lost out in the desert?
No, it's a crepe Suzette.
I see. Is that your starlet over there?
Yes, that's her. Isn't she beautiful?
Rather beautiful young lady. I notice she's not attired in much.
Monica Baboni is her name. She's a German.
What's her name again?
Monica Baboni.
I see. She's not really that bony.
She's a lovely woman, Monica. We have worked before in other films. I wasn't, you see, doing the film. I was once an actor myself.
I see. I see. You were a star of many films, were you?
No, I didn't star in no films at all, actually, but I did work in them. You said I did a small part.
A walk-on, was it?
I wouldn't say that.
More walk-off.
I would say more a walk-off, a left.
Carlos, what is your main philosophy in film producing?
The most important thing in making a film, especially today, is to be sure when you go there in the morning that the cameras are loaded.
The cameras are all there?
Yes, I did a silent film once without pictures.
Somebody made off with the cameras in the night?
It was a terrible thing I have made, you know.
Is a producer liable for all the equipment he has? Is he responsible for it?
I would think if it's his equipment, why shouldn't he be responsible for it?
I would imagine so.
Certainly.
I was thinking of the ship's captain, where if he loses the ship goes down with the captain, or vice versa.
That's true, and that's interesting you say that, because I'm making a new film after this one about the sea.
The sea?
Yes. It's a political film. It's about the Red Sea.
Well, Carlos, I notice your young lady here, the starlet of this film.
Monica Bambini. Monica Bambini.
Monica?
Well, you could call it Monica, depending on what country. She's German.
I see. This German young lady you have as a starlet in this film is not wearing very much. Is that an important part of the script, or is that, as you mentioned, simply for box office attraction?
That's what's going to get us a rating.
What kind of a rating do you think you're going to get?
This film, I promise you, will get a very high rating.
A high rating? How high?
XXX.
What drove you to become a film producer, Carlos?
And all Maserati.
No, seriously, Carlos. I mean, what inner emotions did you have, about becoming a film producer?
It happened to me a very strange time, a rainy cold night.
A rainy cold night?
See, I'm a walk down the street, and I was in Milano at the time, I remember, and I was past a restaurant. And I said to myself, you hungry? You got to do something for a living. So I'm a photographer. My first film in my mind, you see, I get the first plot, and then I put it on the paper, and pretty soon I'm world famous now, you know. Oh yes, everybody know about me.
Your last name again was?
Carlos LOUSY from LOUSY Productions.
How big a company do you have, Carlos? I mean, I'd see, 3 or 4 cameras and a young lady here, slightly clad in you.
Well, of course. Right now we are filming a very personal scene. We don't have a big crowd of people around.
You get rid of them.
Well, of course. They want
distract.
A certain amount of privacy for the actors, you see.
I see.
And the cameraman and myself and Monica Bambini and her, the German girl.
Seriously, Carlos, now, every producer's got his own, style. What is yours?
Well, I think my style is the most recognizable style in the world because people all over the world for a long time now have been saying that was a LOUSY production.
Well, Carlos, many producers are rather fiery in their work. They become rather engrossed in it and bawl a lot of people out when they don't do things. Do you do that?
No, that is a lack of control.
I see.
A man with self-control, intelligence is important, An intelligent man do not scream and yell. No.
How do you handle the situation, Carlos?
I strike people. But I do it quietly. I go over and I hit them in the face. I say, you're dumb, bump. Well, anyway, it's a workout.
Yes, I can imagine. Yeah.
I never have a tantrum in my life. I go into a coma of rage.
Well, how far along are you on this production, Carlos?
We're just starting.
I see.
This is the first scene, of course. Actually, we have been getting ready to start, you see, for 6 months. We have been getting people here, the right cameraman, the right editor, the right actors. This is important. You must know that. Also, it's important to have the right setting and the right temperature. All these things are...
Well, how did you run across the cast that you have now?
They were stranded in a little town out down the road. There was a part of a gypsy caravan, and one night this tambourine woke me up, and... I left my tent, my place, my hotel, villa, and I went down there, and they were, you know, I saw this is a superb, I saw what a personal actress this is. This girl, Monica Bombini, I think that's her name, German girl. I said, gee, she was a great, beautiful child. And I said to her, I know she's not a minute over 37 years old, so I know she's right for this part. It is a juvenile part, at least the way she played is juvenile. And if she don't learn to do it right, excuse me.
How much does a production like this cost?
Well, it depends. In lira, which is, of course, the Italian medium of exchange, in lira, I would say 20, 30, 40 million lira.
How much is that in American money?
$12.23. You wouldn't want to invest a little money in a film yourself?
Really, I don't think. I was just, going to ask you a few impersonal questions. That's when we dropped by.
Yes, well, of course, money is impersonal. At this point, I have none. But I certainly
How much would it take to buy 50% of this movie?
How much you got on you?
What was the plot again?
To get money for the film. No, the plot of this film is a boy meets girl, a boy loses a girl, boy gets a girl.
That's very interesting, Carlos. Where do you intend to go after you finish the production?
Well, I don't know for certain where I will be going, but I do know I will not be going back to Italy.
Not back to Italy?
No, they won't let me in.
I see. What happened?
Well, they said once you get out of this country, Carlos LOUSY, stay out. You don't like a pizza, do you?
Pizza?
Yeah.
Oh, a pizza.
I may open up a bunch of LOUSY pizza parlors.
Well, Carlos, it's been a pleasure this afternoon being on your set and watching your work there.
Grazie.
I really have to catch a plane now to get back to the United States. But I was just curious, when do you think it'll be when you will have this production completed and go into distribution?
If you wait about 10 minutes, you can take it with you.
The WJNO 90-minute anniversary special went over very well. The station received a lot of good comments from listeners, and I liked the extra bucks and the experience. West Palm Beach is just a step away from Palm Beach, a very ritzy crowd, and I was sure it made up a large part of our demographics. What might they like to hear next? The radio bug was biting. What would be my second 90-minute special? Who was Palm Beach's favorite son?
For the next 90 minutes, we present John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the President of the United States. Just when did John F. Kennedy first raise his sights to the White House? Well, the exact time is difficult to pinpoint, for so well ordered were his ambitions that even close friends disagree on just when the presidential bug hit. But by 1960, the Kennedy style was becoming evident.
Senator Jack Kennedy.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I first of all want to express my appreciation to all of you. I know you've been standing for quite a few minutes, so I should say I've been standing for 3 months, so I know how tough it is. I also want to express my appreciation to my old and valued friend, Clem Zablocki. He took on the honorary chairmanship of this campaign all over the state of Wisconsin 6 months ago. Clem Zablocki and I sponsor a bill together, Zablocki-Kennedy bill, as he calls it, the Kennedys of Blocky Bill, as I sometimes refer to it. But that bill, which you may not have ever heard about, provides that the Battle Act shall be amended, and it shall be possible for surplus foods and surplus things that we have in this country to be made available to the people behind the Iron Curtain. The people of Poland. We would have passed that bill 2 years ago. We would have passed that bill 2 years ago. But it failed by one vote in the Senate when the President withdrew his support on the day the bill was coming up to vote. That's how important the office of the presidency is. He shall determine what shall be our policy on Berlin. He shall determine whether we shall be at war or peace. This is the key office. And I run for the presidency because, like you, I have strong ideas about what this country must do. I have strong ideas about the United States playing a great role in a historic moment when the cause of freedom is endangered all over the world, when the United States stands as the only sentry at the gate, when we can see the campfires of the enemy burning on distant hills. That's what's at issue today. That's what we are attempting to determine. In the coming months and years, all of us as Americans are going to be called out of the ranks. Our courage is going to be tested, and I am confident that we are going to give the same affirmative answer. That's what I think this election is about. That's what we're going to begin to do on next Tuesday. Thank you.
On the eve of the 1960 convention, Kennedy told Henry Brandon of the London Sunday Times that his religion had made him a controversial figure. But he added, "I don't know whether it wasn't advantageous, looking at the situation as it was in 1957, 58, 59, to be controversial in one way or another."
I hope that no American, considering the really critical issues facing this country, will waste his franchise and throw away his vote by voting either for me or against me because of my religious affiliation. It is not relevant. I am saying to you that my decisions on every public policy will be my own as an American, as a Democrat, and as a free man.
And then the convention.
Mr. Chairman, Wyoming's vote will make majority for Senator Kennedy.
And I can assure all of you here who have reposed this confidence in me that I will be worthy of your trust. We will carry the fight to the people in the fall, and we shall win.
So now my wife and I prepare for a new administration and for a new baby.
On Thanksgiving Day, November 24th, the Kennedys had somehow stolen a relatively quiet time for themselves and a few friends. They stayed in Georgetown, ate leisurely, and talked of their plans for living and for governing. Though the baby was not due for another month, Jackie was being extremely careful. She had lost 2 others, and she seemed in fine condition that evening as Kennedy left Georgetown to fly to Palm Beach to resume building his government, by choice, away from frantic Washington. 3 hours after Kennedy left Washington, an ambulance was on its way to the Kennedy home. As the Kennedy conveyor, the Caroline, taxied up the ramp in West Palm Beach, the word was radioed that an emergency phone call waited for the president-elect. Kennedy was told that his wife had been taken to the hospital, and as he hurried off the plane to the waiting phone, he told them, "We'll be going right back." For the trip back to Washington, Kennedy got aboard the bigger, faster DC-6, which was flying the press corps. Some 30 minutes after the plane took off, Kennedy moved to the cabin and put on the radio earphones. A few minutes after 1 a.m., Solinger came back and told reporters, "We have just been advised that Mrs. Kennedy has given birth to a baby boy. Both mother and son are doing well." The newsmen applauded wildly. A few minutes after Kennedy arrived at the hospital, this was the situation.
Could you tell us, how is your wife, sir? Very well, fine. And the baby? Very good indeed. We're very grateful for them both being so well. How are you Would you say it was a handsome baby, Senator? Well, I don't know if I'd guess to find baby.
Senator Kennedy, does the baby look like you?
No, well, I'll have to study it some more.
Then back to the campaign trail.
We stand today on the edge of a new frontier. The frontier of the 1960s. The frontier of unknown opportunities and perils. It is not a set of promises. It is a set of challenges. It sums up not what I intend to offer to the American people, but what I intend to ask of them. Beyond that frontier are uncharted areas of science and space, unsolved problems of peace and war, unconquered province of ignorance and prejudice. But I believe that the times require imagination. For courage, not complacency, is our need today. Can freedom in the next generation conquer, or are the communists going to be successful? That's the great issue. And I don't want historians 10 years from now to say, these were the years when the tide ran out for the United States.
Then at the end of the campaign trail,
You, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
that you will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of your ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
the sky was a deep and pure blue. Whiffs of white clouds scattered here and there. Wind stirred the snow which blanketed the Capitol grounds. It bit deeply because the temperature was just 20 degrees, yet it felt fresh and promising to the people there. The flavor was New England, from poet Robert Frost to the bareheaded man who became President of the United States at 12:51 p.m. In just a moment, John Fitzgerald Kennedy's inaugural address. Kennedy stood coatless and gave his message. It came with a Boston accent, with the left hand doubled into a fist and right forefinger thumping the rostrum.
We observe today not a victory of party, but a celebration of freedom, symbolizing an end as well as a beginning, signifying renewal as well as change. For I have sworn before you and Almighty God the same solemn oath our forebears prescribed nearly a century and 3/4 ago. The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
At this point, Eisenhower sat huddled in his thick overcoat, his white scarf up around his neck, and his expression one of parting.
And yet the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe. The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God. We dare not forget today that we are the heirs of that first revolution. Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century, tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed and to which we are committed today at home and around the world.
Soviet Ambassador Menshikov sat impassive. His gray hat was pulled over his brow. He was swathed in a gray overcoat. His gloved hands were clasped in front of him. He did not smile, and he did not frown.
Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty. This much we pledge and more. To those old allies whose cultural and spiritual origins we share, we pledge the loyalty of faithful friends. United, there is little we cannot do in a host of cooperative ventures. Divided, there is little we can do, for we dare not meet a powerful challenge at odds and split asunder. Let both sides explore what problems unite us instead of belaboring those problems which divide us. Let both sides, for the first time, formulate serious and precise proposals for the inspection and control of arms and bring the absolute power to destroy other nations under the absolute control of all nations. Let both sides seek to invoke the wonders of science instead of its terrors. Together, let us explore the stars, conquer the deserts, eradicate disease, tap the ocean depth, and encourage the arts and commerce. Let both sides unite to heed in all corners of the earth the command of Isaiah to undo the heavy burdens and let the oppressed go free. And if a beachhead of cooperation may push back the jungle of suspicion, let both sides join in creating a new endeavor, not a new balance of power, but a new world of law, where the strong are just and the weak secure and the peace preserved. All this will not be finished in the first 100 days, nor will it be finished in the first 1,000 days, nor in the life of this administration, nor even perhaps in our lifetime on this planet. But let us begin. In your hands, my fellow citizens, more than mine, will rest the final success or failure of our course. Since this country was founded, each generation of Americans has been summoned to give testimony to its national loyalty. The graves of young Americans who answered the call to service surround the globe. Now the trumpet summons us again, not as a call to bear arms, though arms we need, not as a call to battle, though in battle we are, but a call to bear the burden of a long twilight struggle, year in and year out, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, a struggle against the common enemies of man, tyranny, poverty, disease, and war itself. Can we forge against these enemies a grand and global alliance, north and south, east and west, that can assure a more fruitful life for all mankind? Will you join in that historic effort?
Then, just for a moment, it was as if he were back in Wisconsin or West Virginia or California. His jaw came up and his voice rose.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And the glow from that fire can truly light the world.
And then a phrase that might stick with Kennedy for the rest of his life.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man. Finally, whether you are citizens of America or citizens of the world, ask of us here the same high standards of strength and sacrifice which we ask of you. With a good conscience, our only sure reward, with history the final judge of our deeds, let us go forth to lead the land we love, asking his blessing and his help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own.
Kennedy was now officially in office, and he tried an experiment. He put his press conference on nationwide live TV. No longer would the cramped Indian Treaty Room, which had been used up to this point in the Executive Office building, be used. Instead, the conference would be switched to the luxurious new State Department auditorium, a vast chamber with beige carpeting and gaudy orange and black padded seats. From New York came the young TV consultant William P. Wilson to arrange the staging for the show. Salinger issued orders that the cameras were to give minimum interference to the word men who would ask the questions. Special phones were installed in the hall outside the auditorium. A reporting service was hired to give instant transcripts of the conference. The White House regulars, reporters who cover the president constantly, were installed in reserved seats down in front. The day before the first conference, memorandums from all departments flooded into the White House, posing the possible questions and answers. These were made up into notebooks and given to the president for study. The correspondents had a vague feeling that now they were becoming props in a TV drama. They feared that the informality of the close give and take of the jam quarters in the Indian Treaty Room would be lost, and that therefore some of the revealing bits of the personality of the president would be covered up in the great production with cameras and lights and with microphones that looked like howitzers. Later, the question of managed news would arise.
Mr. President, the practice of managed news is attributed to your administration. Mr. Salinger says he's never had it defined. Will you give us your definition and ask us why you find it necessary to practice it?
You are charging us with something, Miss Gray, and then you're asking me to define what it is you're charging me with. I think you might, let me just say that we've had very limited success in managing the news, if that's what we've been trying to do. And perhaps you'd tell us what it is that you object to in our treatment of the news.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Well, I don't believe in managed news at all. I thought we ought to get everything we want.
Well, I think you should too, Miss Gray. I'm for that.
And then at one of those news conferences came the question of Cuba.
President, the Defense Department announcement on the incident in the Florida Straits said simply that the MiGs fired near the shrimp alert. And you used the term attack. Now, did these MiGs attack the boat and miss, or did they harass the boat?
I don't think we have the answer to that question. I think the shots came within, 40 yards of the boat. Whether that's, I would think if you're on the boat, that's regarded as as an attack. And whether they were trying to hit the boat or whether they were merely attempting to target practice, all these things, I think we'll have to look at the next day or so.
Then the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion.
I think that the members of the brigade were under the impression that the planes which were available, which were the B-26 planes, would give them protection on the beach. That did not work out. That was one of the failures. The jets, the training jets which we used against them were very effective, and therefore the brigade was not able to maintain air supremacy on the beach. So that I think that makes it clear. As I've said from the beginning, the operation was a failure, and that the responsibility rests with the White House.
The valiant try which fails but is born of heroic intentions often wins from Americans as much admiration as does triumph. Apparently Americans so regarded the Bay of Pigs. John Kennedy accepted the full blame, or almost. In his public declarations, even in private, he admitted his own giant miscalculations. Yet on the Thursday and Friday of the aftermath of the defeat, the White House did its own hatchet work. Reporters were called into background sessions and informed that the Joint Chiefs of Staff had selected the landing beaches and that the CIA had promised the native uprising that never materialized. Some attempts were made to fasten responsibility on the Eisenhower administration. Some statements were considered so far out of line that Salinger personally called the reporters to get them rescinded. Secretary of the Interior Stuart Udall, in a TV interview, took up the cry and almost fully blamed Ike, a charge Kennedy hastily corrected. It was not the most admirable moment for the White House staff, which had gone through one of the toughest political campaigns in history with a minimum of deception. Sympathy for John Kennedy was genuine, without falsifying the record. When United States Ambassador Llewellyn Thompson came to Washington at the start of the Kennedy administration for top-level consultations, he brought with him more feelers for some kind of a meeting with Khrushchev. Kennedy talked the idea over with Lyndon Johnson, Dean Rusk, and 3 former ambassadors to the Soviet Union, Averell Harriman, George Kennan, and Charles Bolden. The consensus was that it might be worthwhile. The fact that he had not talked to Khrushchev was proving to be a psychological barrier to the president. All of his big policy moves, nuclear testing, settlement in Laos, and strengthening NATO, were affected by what the Soviets thought and said. A clear idea of what to expect from the Russians might come at a meeting with the premier. The uncommitted nations were in some instances sitting on their hands, waiting for a Kennedy-Khrushchev encounter to help guide their own futures. The reason for such a meeting, it seemed to Kennedy and his advisors, far outnumbered the reasons against it. And as important as anything else, Kennedy had confidence in himself to perform well at the conference table. In late March, Gromyko came to the White House for his talk with Kennedy about Laos. Again, the matter came up about a Kennedy-Khrushchev meeting. The president said he was willing, and Gromyko assured Kennedy that Khrushchev would still like to meet with him. But before any of this, there were some other tasks. First among them was Kennedy's visit to Canada, his initial venture outside the country. It held its unpleasant surprise. Only a short while after landing and being grandly greeted by Canada's Prime Minister John Diefenbaker and an elite corps of scarlet-coated Mounties, President Kennedy walked out into the gently sloping lawn of Ottawa's Government House to plant a small red oak tree as a lasting memory of his visit. The tree was to go along with those planted by other presidents. Kennedy took the silver shovel handle to him and leaned over to shovel up some of the neat pile of black earth. Then it happened. As he bent to stoop, there was a sharp pain in his back, deep in the lower lumbar region. It was not a severe pain. The horde of photographers and reporters and visitors did not see a wince. Yet the pain was an unmistakable sign that his back was to trouble him again. In the final week before his departure for Europe, Kennedy laid down the law around the White House. He wanted as much time as possible for himself. He laid out an intensive amount of study on all the world issues. He asked for a series of briefings from the experts, and he wanted time to ponder how he should act and what he should say. Kennedy declared that he had 2 main considerations in these talks. He did not want to make a decision on the resumption of nuclear testing until he had gone the last mile, and that included talking with Khrushchev himself.
You have said, and I think more than once, that heads of government should not go to the summit to negotiate agreements. but only to approve agreements negotiated at a lower level. Now it's being said and written that you're going to eat those words and go to a summit without any agreement at a lower level. Has your position changed, sir?
Well, I'm going to have a dinner for all the people who've written it, and we'll see who eats what.
Time when both sides possess weapons of mutual destruction and annihilation, I think it's also valuable that there should be understanding and communication and a firm realization of what we believe. So I go to see Mr. Khrushchev in Vienna. I carry with me a message which is written on one of our statues by a distinguished and vigorous New Englander, William Lloyd Garrison. I am in earnest. I will not equivocate. I will not excuse. I will not retreat a single inch, and I will be heard. We face a challenge in Berlin, but there is also a challenge in Southeast Asia, where the borders are less guarded, the enemy harder to find, and the dangers of communism less apparent to those who have so little. I hear it said that West Berlin is militarily untenable, and so was Bastogne, and so in fact was Stalingrad. Any dangerous spot is tenable if men, brave men, will make it so. We seek peace, but we shall not surrender. 3 times in my lifetime, our country and Europe have been involved in major wars. In each case, serious misjudgments were made on both sides of the intentions of others, which brought about great devastation. Now, in the thermonuclear age, any misjudgment on either side about the intentions of the other could rain more devastation in several hours than has been wrought in all the wars of human history. I know that sometimes we get impatient. We wish for some immediate action that would end our perils. But I must tell you that there is no quick and easy solution. The communists control over 1 billion people, and they recognize that if we should falter, their success would be imminent. We must look to long days ahead, which, if we are courageous and persevering, can bring us what we all desire. In meeting my responsibilities in these coming months as president, I need your goodwill and your support, and above all, your prayers.
It is therefore our intention to challenge the Soviet Union not to an arms race, but to a peace race. Let us call a truce to terror. The logical place to begin is a treaty assuring the end of nuclear tests of all kinds in every environment under workable control. We also proposed a mutual ban on atmospheric testing without inspection or controls in order to save the human race from the poison of radioactive fallout. We regret that that offer has not been accepted. Together we shall save our planet, or together we shall perish in its flames.
The new frontier is now into its 2nd year. It's April 1962. April seemed to be a fateful month for John Kennedy. In 1961, it brought the Bay of Pigs. In 1962, it brought Roger Blow, chairman of the United States Steel Corporation.
Simultaneous and identical actions of United States Steel and other leading steel corporations, increasing steel prices by some $6 a ton, constitute a wholly unjustifiable and irresponsible defiance of the public interest. In this serious hour in our nation's history, at a time when restraint and sacrifice are being asked of every citizen, the American people will find it hard, as I do, to accept a situation in which a tiny handful of steel executives, whose pursuit of private power and profit exceeds their sense of public responsibility, can show such utter contempt for the interests of 185 million Americans.
I am delighted to have a chance to say a few words
about this administration's policy, which has been the subject of a good deal of discussion, acrimony, and controversy on wages and prices and profits. Now, I know there are some people who say that this isn't any business of the President of the United States, and and who believe that the President of the United States should be the honorary chairman of a great fraternal organization and confine himself to ceremonial functions. That isn't what the Constitution says. And I did not run for President of the United States to fulfill that office in that way. Harry Truman once said there are 14 or 15 million Americans who have the resources to have representatives in Washington to protect their interests. And that the interests of the great mass of the other people, the 150 or 60 million, is the responsibility of the President of the United States, and I propose to fulfill it.
This, then, was John Fitzgerald Kennedy and his crisis of steel. But then on the lighter side...
For a long time, the President and his family have been subjected to such a heavy barrage of teasing and fun-poking and satire. I mean, there have been books on backstairs at the White House, and cartoon books with clever sayings, and photo albums with balloons and the rest, and now a smash hit record. Can you tell us whether you read and listen to these things and whether they produce annoyment or enjoyment?
Annoyment. No, they produce... yes, I have read them and listened to them. Actually, I listened to Mr. Meader's record, but I thought it sounded more like Teddy than it did me, but...
Mr. President, the Democratic platform in which you ran for election promises to work for equal rights for women, including equal pay. Now, you have made efforts on behalf of others. What have you done for the women according to the promises of the platform?
Well, I'm sure we haven't done enough, and...
The date is now October the 14th, 1962. In the high, thin air over western Cuba, the cameras in a U-2 reconnaissance plane whirred, and a tiny cluster of Russian military equipment below was revealed to be a medium-range ballistic missile site. There had been suspicious signs earlier, and Kennedy had ordered close surveillance, but in the days before October the 14th, bad weather had interfered with high-level photography, and the White House would confess to itself later, American intelligence was just a little drowsy. It had been lulled into that state by the constant assurances of the Soviet affairs experts in the State Department that it was highly unlikely that the Russians would take missiles outside communist land. There was no precedent for such action, and no indication that they would change their habits at this time. Then began a frantic and clandestine week in the back corridors of the White House, in the Pentagon, and the State Department. There were hushed phone conversations between Kennedy and Rusk, Kennedy and McNamara. There were the constant comings and goings in the White House. Bob Kennedy was there almost as much as the President. To avoid detection, the men had to adopt Indian tactics. Abnormal collections of big black cars were to be avoided. On one evening, 10 of the top officers of the United States plied in one single car to ride from the State Department to the White House, the scene being much like a Marx Brothers movie. Back doors were used. Beards were shaved despite all-night work. Normal greetings were given and normal clothes worn, and when possible, normal schedules were kept. There were some breaks going for Kennedy at this time. For one thing, the White House press corps was in a total disarray because of the political campaign. They were dispatched on Fridays with duffel bags packed, and then through Saturday and Sunday there ensued a dusty race across America to listen to Kennedy on the stump.
I have come to this Center of Learning in order... come back to my college, Yale.
He flew on to Chicago, and then it became clear that he would have to cut his campaign short. The President's consul was needed too often now to handle the crisis by phone. It was the only time during the 13-day crisis period that Kennedy's aides felt he had become unplugged. He decided to fly back to Washington on the following morning, but first he would need an excuse. He could say he had developed a cold. It was a rainy, cold night in Chicago, and more of the same weather was promised for the next day, which was to be a day of outdoor campaigning. Perhaps the story would be believed by the harassed press corps. Kennedy's staff now became jumpy about security. On the jet back to Washington, Larry O'Brien glanced at the press contingent in the back of the presidential plane and wondered if they had swallowed the story. They did, at least long enough not to matter. At 5:30, both in the Kremlin and Washington, the Russians were told. Then it was nearly time for Kennedy to tell the American people. He gave his hair a swipe or two with a brush, walked to his desk, straightened the sheets of paper, and then began.
Only last Thursday, as evidence of this rapid offensive buildup was already in my hand, Soviet Foreign Minister Gromyko told me in my office that he was instructed to make it clear once again, as he said his government had already done, that Soviet assistance to Cuba, and I quote, pursued solely the purpose of contributing to the defense capabilities of Cuba, unquote. Neither the United States of America nor the world community of nations can tolerate deliberate deception and offensive threats on the part of any nation, large or small. We no longer live in a world where only the actual firing of weapons represents a sufficient challenge to a nation's security to constitute maximum peril. Nuclear weapons are so destructive and ballistic missiles are so swift that any substantially increased possibility of their use or any sudden change in their deployment may well be regarded as a definite threat to peace. In violation of Soviet assurances and in defiance of American and hemispheric policy, this sudden, clandestine decision to station strategic weapons for the first time outside of Soviet soil is a deliberately provocative and unjustified change in the status quo, which cannot be accepted by this country if our courage and our commitments are ever to be trusted again by either friend or foe. Our policy has been one of patience and restraint, as befits a peaceful and powerful nation which leads a worldwide alliance. We have been determined not to be diverted from our central concerns by mere irritants and fanatics. But now further action is required, and it is underway, and these actions may only be the beginning. We will not prematurely or unnecessarily risk the course of worldwide nuclear war, in which even the fruits of victory would be ashes in our mouth. But neither will we shrink from that risk at any time it must be faced. Acting, therefore, in the defense of our own security and of the entire Western Hemisphere, and under the authority entrusted to me by the Constitution, as endorsed by the resolution of the Congress, I have directed that the following initial steps be taken immediately. First, to halt this offensive buildup, a strict quarantine on all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba is being initiated. Second, I have directed the continued and increased close surveillance of Cuba and its military buildup. Should these offensive military preparations continue, thus increasing the threat to the hemisphere, further action will be justified. I have directed the armed forces to prepare for any eventualities. Third, it shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States, requiring a full retaliatory response upon the Soviet Union. Fourth, as a necessary military precaution, I have reinforced our base at Guantanamo, evacuated today the dependents of our personnel there, and ordered additional military units to be on a standby alert basis. Fifth, we are calling tonight for an immediate meeting of the Organization of Consultation under the Organization of American States. Sixth, under the Charter of the United Nations, we are asking tonight that an emergency meeting of the Security Council be convoked without delay to take action against this latest Soviet threat to world peace. Our resolution will call for the prompt dismantling and withdrawal of all offensive weapons in Cuba under the supervision of UN observers before the quarantine can be lifted. Seventh and finally, I call upon Chairman Khrushchev to halt and eliminate this clandestine, reckless, and provocative threat to world peace and to stable relations between our two nations. I call upon him further to abandon this course of world domination and to join in an historic effort to end the perilous arms race and to transform the history of man. We are prepared to discuss new proposals for the removal of tensions on both sides, including the possibilities of a genuinely independent Cuba, free to determine its own destiny. We have no wish to war with the Soviet Union, for we are a peaceful people who desire to live in peace with all other peoples. But it is difficult to settle or even discuss these problems in an atmosphere of intimidation. That is why this latest Soviet threat, or any other threat, which is made either independently or in response to our actions this week, must and will be met with determination. Any hostile move anywhere in the world against the safety and freedom of peoples to whom we are committed, including in particular the brave people of West Berlin, will be met by whatever action is needed. My fellow citizens, let no one doubt that this is a difficult and dangerous effort on which we have set out. The path we have chosen for the present is full of hazards, as all paths are. But it is the one most consistent with our character and courage as a nation and our commitments around the world. The cost of freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it. And one path we shall never choose, and that is the path of surrender or submission. Our goal is not the victory of might, but the vindication of right. Not peace at the expense of freedom, but both peace and freedom here in this hemisphere, and we hope around the world. God willing, that goal will be achieved.
All right, sir. Let me ask you one simple question. Do you, Ambassador Zorin, deny that the USSR has placed and is placing medium and intermediate range missiles and sights in Cuba? Yes or no? Don't wait for the translation, yes or no?
И поэтому не хочу отвечать на вопрос, который задается в прокурорском плане.
Put to me in the fashion in which a prosecutor does. In due course, sir, you will have your reply.
You're in a court of world opinion right now, and you can answer yes or no. You have denied that they exist. I want to know if I've understood you correctly.
Продолжайте вашу речь, господин Стивенсон.
Sir, would you please continue your statement? You will have your answer in due course.
Stevenson, would you continue your statement, please? You will receive the answer in due course. Do not worry.
I'm prepared to wait for my answer until hell freezes over, if that's your decision.
I want to take this opportunity to report on the conclusions which this government has reached on the basis of yesterday's aerial photographs, namely that the Soviet missile bases in Cuba are being dismantled, their missiles and related equipment are being crated, and the fixed installations at these sites are being destroyed. The United States intends to follow closely the completion of this work through a variety of means, including aerial surveillance, until such time as an equally satisfactory international means of verification is effective. The continuation of these measures in air and sea is in keeping with our pledge to secure their withdrawal or elimination from this hemisphere, and it is in keeping with the exchange of letters with Chairman Khrushchev of October 27th and 28th. We will continue to keep the American people informed on this vital matter.
It's now 1963. The new frontier is now into its final year. In a trip to Mexico, the Kennedys were warmly accepted. As usual, Jack will install the show.
Un impacto perdurable en el pensamiento y la cultura del mundo actual. El antiguo espíritu de México es lo que no ha cambiado. Este nos hace recordar que el progreso material se puede alcanzar sin destruir los valores del corazón y la mente humana. ¡Viva México!
Sí, muchas gracias, amigos.
In 1963, the main worry continued to be civil rights. In the streets and in the courts and in the minds and hearts of American citizens, the civil rights battle went on. All of it seemed to build toward a new crisis when Negroes were to enroll at the University of Alabama in mid-June. Governor George Wallace had announced his intentions to do everything in his power to block their entry. For weeks, Bob Kennedy and the Justice Department had been preparing for this showdown. They had photographed the campus with military reconnaissance planes in order to be ready for any kind of difficulty. If they could help it, they were determined it would not be another Oxford. A domestic crisis is a weird kind of drama in the White House that is watched and felt and listened to over television, phone lines, and cables. In a last attempt to preserve the peace, Kennedy decided he would go on TV. A short while before airtime that evening, his office was a scene of confusion. Kennedy waded through it to test the cameras. The monitors already said, looking at the test TV picture, but the camera ought to be brought up. The technicians hurried to oblige. 3 minutes, a TV man said. Kennedy settled on the pillow of his chair. 30 seconds. There was silence. The president's nervous fingers played with the sheets of his speech text. Stand by, Mr. President.
Following a series of threats and defiant statements, the presence of Alabama National Guardsmen was required on the University of Alabama to carry out the final and unequivocal order of the United States District Court of the Northern District of Alabama. That order called for the admission of 2 clearly qualified young Alabama residents who happened to have been born Negro. That they were admitted peacefully on the campus is due in good measure to the conduct of the students of the University of Alabama who met their responsibilities in a constructive way. I hope that every American, regardless of where he lives, will stop and examine his conscience about this and other related incidents. This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds. It was founded on the principle that all men are created equal, and that the rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened. Today we are committed to a worldwide struggle to promote and protect the rights of all who wish to be free. And when Americans are sent to Vietnam or West Berlin, we do not ask for whites only. It ought to be possible, therefore, for American students of any color to attend any public institution they select without having to be backed up by troops. It ought to be possible for American consumers of any color to receive equal service in places of public accommodation, such as hotels and restaurants and theaters and retail stores, without being forced to resort to demonstrations in the street. And it ought to be possible for American citizens of any color to register and to vote in a free election without interference or fear of reprisal. It ought to be possible, in short, for every American to enjoy the privileges of being American without regard to his race or his color. In short, every American ought to have the right to be treated as he would wish to be treated, as one would wish his children to be treated. But this is not the case. The Negro baby born in America today, regardless of the section of the state in which he is born, has about 1/2 as much chance of completing a high school as a white baby, born in the same place on the same day. 1/3 as much chance of completing college. 1/3 as much chance of becoming a professional man. Twice as much chance of becoming unemployed. About 1/7 as much chance of earning $10,000 a year. A life expectancy which is 7 years shorter, and the prospects of earning only half as much. This is not a sectional issue. Difficulties over segregation and discrimination exist in every city, in every state of the Union, producing in many cities a rising tide of discontent that threatens the public safety. Nor is this a partisan issue. In a time of domestic crisis, men of goodwill and generosity should be able to unite regardless of party or politics. This is not even a legal or legislative issue alone. It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right. We are confronted primarily with a moral issue. It is as old as the Scriptures and is as clear as the American Constitution. The heart of the question is whether all Americans are to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities, whether we are going to treat our fellow Americans as we want to be treated. If an American, because his skin is dark, cannot eat lunch in a restaurant open to the public, if he cannot send his children to the best public school available, if he cannot vote for the public officials who represent him, if, in short, he cannot enjoy the full and free life which all of us want, then who among us would be content to have the color of his skin changed and stand in his place? Who among us would then be content with the counsels of patience and delay? 100 years of delay have passed since President Lincoln freed the slaves, yet their heirs, their grandsons, are not fully free. They are not yet freed from the bonds of injustice. They are not yet freed from social and economic oppression. And this nation, for all its hopes and all its boasts, will not be fully free until all its citizens are free. We preach freedom around the world, and we mean it. And we cherish our freedom here at home. But are we to say to the world, and much more importantly, to each other, that this is a land of the free, except for the Negroes, that we have no second-class citizens, except Negroes, that we have no class or caste system, no ghettos, no master race, except with respect to Negroes? Now the time has come for this nation to fulfill its promise. The events in Birmingham and elsewhere have so increased the cries for equality that no city or state or legislative body can prudently choose to ignore them. The fires of frustration and discord are burning in every city, north and south. Where legal remedies are not at hand, redress is sought in the streets, in demonstrations, parades, and protests, which create tensions and threaten violence and threaten lives. We face, therefore, a moral crisis as a country and a people. It cannot be met by repressive police action. It cannot be left to increase demonstrations in the streets. It cannot be quieted by token moves or talk. It is a time to act in the Congress, in your state and local legislative body, and above all, in all of our daily lives. It is not enough to pin the blame on others, to say this is a problem of one section of the country or another, or deplore the facts that we face. A great change is at hand, and our task, our obligation, is to make that revolution, that change, peaceful and constructive for all. Those who do nothing are inviting shame as well as violence. Those who act boldly are recognizing right as well as reality. Next week, I shall ask the Congress of the United States to act, to make a commitment it is not fully made in this century to the proposition that race has no place in American life or law. The federal judiciary has upheld that proposition in a series of forthright cases. The executive branch has adopted that proposition in the conduct of its affairs, including the employment of federal personnel, the use of federal facilities, and the sale of federally financed housing. But there are other necessary measures which only the Congress can provide, and they must be provided at this session. The old code of equity law under which we live commands for every wrong a remedy. But in too many communities, in too many parts of the country, wrongs are inflicted on Negro citizens and there are no remedies at law. Unless the Congress acts, their only remedy is the street. I am therefore asking the Congress to enact legislation giving all Americans the right to be served in facilities which are open to the public: hotels, restaurants, theaters, retail stores, and similar establishments. This seems to me to be an elementary right. Its denial is an arbitrary indignity that no American in 1963 should have to endure, but many do. I have recently met with scores of business leaders, urging them to take voluntary action to end this discrimination. And I've been encouraged by their response. And in the last 2 weeks, over 75 cities have seen progress made in desegregating these kinds of facilities. But many are unwilling to act alone. And for this reason, nationwide legislation is needed if we are to move this problem from the streets to the courts. I'm also asking Congress to authorize the federal government to participate more fully in lawsuits designed to end segregation in public education. We have succeeded in persuading many districts to desegregate voluntarily. Dozens have admitted Negroes without violence. Today, a Negro is attending a state-supported institution in every one of our 50 states, but the pace is very slow. Too many Negro children entering segregated grade schools at the time of the Supreme Court's decision 9 years ago will enter segregated high schools this fall, having suffered a loss which can never be restored. The lack of an adequate education denies the Negro a chance to get a decent job. The orderly implementation of the Supreme Court decision, therefore, cannot be left solely to those who may not have the economic resources to carry the legal action, or who may be subject to harassment. Other features will be also requested, including greater protection for the right to vote. But legislation, I repeat, cannot solve this problem alone. It must be solved in the homes of every American, in every community across our country. In this respect, I want to pay tribute to those citizens north and south who've been working in their communities to make life better for all. They are acting not out of a sense of legal duty, but out of a sense of human decency. Like our soldiers and sailors in all parts of the world, they are meeting freedom's challenge on the firing line, and I salute them for their honor and their courage. My fellow Americans, this is a problem which faces us all, in every city of the North as well as the South. Today, there are Negroes unemployed 2 or 3 times as many compared to whites, inadequate education, moving into the large cities, unable to find work, young people particularly out of work without hope, denied equal rights, denied the opportunity to eat at a restaurant or a lunch counter or go to a movie theater, denied the right to a decent education, denied almost today the right to attend a state university even though qualified. Seems to me that these are matters which concern us all, not merely presidents or congressmen or governors, but every citizen of the United States. This is one country. It has become one country because all of us and all the people who came here had an equal chance to develop their talents. We cannot say to 10% of the population that you can't have that right, that your children can't have the chance to develop whatever talents they have, that the only way that they are going to get their rights is to go in the street and demonstrate. This is what we're talking about, and this is a matter which concerns this country and what it stands for. And in meeting it, I ask the support of all of our citizens.
June of 1963 was travel month, and Kennedy was off for Europe, once again bound for Germany, Ireland, England, and Italy. In Berlin, the greatest human demonstration that Kennedy had ever seen was before him. Mile after mile of packed streets of cheering and waving people who stood 10 and 20 deep to see the President of the United States.
There are many people in the world who really don't understand, or say they don't, what is the great issue between the free world and the communist world. Let them come to Berlin. There are some who say that communism is the wave of the future. Let them come to Berlin. A few who say that it's true that communism is an evil system, but it permits us to make economic progress. Lass sie nach Berlin kommen. Let them come. Freedom has many difficulties, and democracy is not perfect. But we have never had to put a wall up to keep our people in, to prevent them from leaving us. All free men, wherever they may live, are citizens of Berlin. And therefore, as a free man, I take pride in the words, Ich bin ein Berliner.
No swift and easy path to peace in our generation. No man who witnessed the tragedies of the last war, no man who can imagine the unimaginable possibilities of the next war, can advocate war out of irritability or frustration or impatience. But let no nation confuse our perseverance and patience with fear of war or unwillingness to meet our responsibilities. We cannot save ourselves by abandoning those who are associated with us or rejecting our responsibility. In the end, the only way to maintain the peace is to be prepared in the final extreme to fight for our country and to mean it. As a nation, we have little capacity for deception. We can convince friend and foe alike that we are in earnest about the defense of freedom only if we are in earnest. And I can assure the world that we are.
As fall came, John Kennedy was in another slump. His Gallup poll popularity had fallen to 61%. Racial unrest continued to plague the nation, and the Republican presidential hopefuls, led by Barry Goldwater, rode to the attack week after week. But Kennedy continued to state his mind.
Now, for the first time in many years, the path of peace may be open. No one can be certain what the future will bring. No one can say whether the time has come for an easing of the struggle. But history and our own conscience will judge us harshly if we do not now make every effort to test our hopes by action. And this is the place to begin. According to the ancient Chinese proverb, a journey of 1,000 miles must begin with a single step. My fellow Americans, let us take that first step. Let us, if we can, step back from the shadows of war and seek out the way of peace. And if that journey is 1,000 miles or even more, let history record that we, in this land, at this time, took the first step.
The date, November 22nd, 1963. The place, Dallas, Texas. The new frontier, almost over. Here now is the last speech the President of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, would make.
Governor, Mr. Vice President, Senator, members of the Congress, members of the military, ladies and gentlemen. For more than 3 years, I've spoken about the new frontier. This is not a partisan term, and it's not the exclusive property of Republicans or Democrats. It refers instead to this nation's place in history, to the fact that we do stand on the edge of a great new era, filled with both crisis and opportunity.
an era to be characterized by achievement and by challenge. It is an area which calls for action and for the best efforts of all those who would test the unknown and the uncertain in every phase of human endeavor. It is a time for pathfinders and pioneers. I have come to Texas today to salute an outstanding group of pioneers. The man who manned the Brooks Air Force Base School of Aerospace Medicine and the Aerospace Medical Center.
Next month, when the United States of America fires the largest booster in the history of the world into space for the first time, giving us the lead, fires the largest payload into space, giving us the lead. It will be the largest payroll, too. Who should know that better than Houston? In 1990, your sons, daughters, grandsons, and grandchildren will be applying to the colleges of this state in a number 3 times what they do today. Our airports will serve 5 times as many passenger miles. We will need housing for 100 million more people, and many times more doctors and engineers and technicians than we are presently producing. That is why we're trying to do more in these areas. As in the 30s, Albert Thomas and Franklin Roosevelt and others did those things which make it possible for not only Texas, but the entire United States to prosper and grow as we do in the 1960s. In 1990, the age of space will be entering its 2nd phase. And our hopes in it to preserve the peace, to make sure that in this great new sea, as on earth, the United States is second to none.
When you're my age and everything's going along all right, I guess you take being an American pretty much for granted. You seldom stop to realize what's going on around you, and all things seem to run together. Then all of a sudden comes a day when you slap yourself on the forehead and say, hey, I'm seeing history before my eyes. I'm seeing this happen. I'm involved in it. I'm living it. I must be, because my heart is beating too fast and my cheeks have too many tears rolling down them. You turn and look around you and you know it's true, because other people are feeling the same way. I didn't know the man. I'd seen his face 1,000 times and I'd heard his voice over and over, but I didn't know the man. Not before. But how quickly that changed.
President Kennedy and Governor John Connally of Texas were both hit by a would-be assassin's bullets as they toured downtown Dallas in an open automobile a short while ago.
How unbelievably and unrealistically that changed.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, is dead at the age of 46. Shot by an assassin as he drove through the streets of Dallas, Texas, less than an hour ago.
Watching that riderless horse, his face kept flashing before me. Watching that flag-draped caisson rolling along, I kept hearing that voice, that funny clipped sort of proper way of talking that sounded so odd to me the first time I heard it. Watching that gallant lady and family, and the heads of state from around the world walking, I realized how many things I did know about him. I really did know him very well. Whether I agreed with him or disagreed with him, all that I knew about him, pro and con, that didn't seem to matter. For in losing him, I found myself. A day isn't just a day to me anymore. Each day that passes, I'm a part of this world, and it's not all bad. Man is doing a few things other than trying to destroy himself, and he's making some headway. I know about Jonas Salk, and I know about Michael DeBakey, and I know that there are countless other Bible men in every field who will find many answers to many things in my lifetime. And I know my kids, given half a chance, are going to be better off than I am. History isn't just a subject I studied in school anymore. It's something that's happening this minute with God's infinite inspiration and the belief that as an American so blessed, whether rich or poor, I'm going to be a part of this free land. And I'll pray for it, and I'll fight for it. I don't know about you, but my turning point came when the eternal flame was lit for a man whose hand I never shook. He was a real American, and his life and his death made a real American out of me. And I'm grateful he passed my way.
My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man.
Of course, ladies and gentlemen, advertising plays a key part in everyone's life in this day and age, and it just so happens that this afternoon we have with us one of the more enlightened and educated advertising men on a national scale, as it were. Your name is...
Right.
Mr. Wright, is that?
Right, Mr. Wright. Advertising's the game, Wright's the name.
I see. Mr. Wright, how long have you been in advertising?
Oh, I've been in advertising for 20 years.
20 years?
20 years' time.
Uh-huh.
Seen a lot of biggies.
I suppose you have.
I've been there when they talked about the first big one.
What was that? You mean your first
oh, sure.
client?
Mm-hmm.
What was...
I'd walk a mile for a...
I'm sorry, we can't talk about that, sir, on the radio.
Oh, okay.
Are you an independent advertiser? Or are you
yes,
part of
I am independent now. All my partners have bailed out. All by myself. Independence, right. Do a lot better. Take my 15% right off the top. But you know the old advertising expression.
Hey, what is the old
15% of nothing is nothing. That's right.
I suppose you're right there. What other outstanding advertising campaigns have you waged?
Oh, I've been in on the biggies. Let me tell you one of my most successful campaigns that we ever ran, all right? This was a biggie. They came to me. They must have had $50 or $60 to spend. Just, you know, just to throw out the window, just for ideas.
Right.
You know, ideas? Ideas are the key to our business.
That's right.
Right. So they were working on this product that you shouldn't, I don't know whether I can say the word over the radio.
Well, try it. We'll blip it out.
Burp. Burp.
Burp is all right.
Burp is all right?
I do it on my show occasionally.
Burp. Right?
Right.
Well, there's a product on the market, burp.
Oh, it's an anti-burp depression.
Something like that.
Yeah.
No burping, right? Okay.
Very big.
So they wanted to have a guy say that he had, you know, partaken in something, and it made him burp. And he took the product, and he was fine. I came up with a great slogan.
What was that?
I can't believe I ate part of the thing. Big burp campaign. Big. They must have laid $50 out on that easy.
I can imagine. Money.
My secretary, a new typewriter ribbon and everything with that one.
Well, how did you start, sir?
Big
How did you start in the advertising game?
Well, I was standing on the corner of Lexington Avenue and 45th Street. And a woman came up to me, and oh, no, that's another story. And I was standing there, and I saw the sign in the window that said, advertising executive wanted, come right in, $45 a week, must know how to type. So I went in there and got the job.
I see. That's it, huh?
Yeah, and from there it was steadily one step after another into the old commode, man. Shouldn't laugh at a man who's in the twilight of his career.
Just don't pull the lever.
No, should never do that. You know, another successful campaign I had was for a candy bar.
Candy bar?
Kids like the candy, you know? Oh, I had big ones. I had the Giggles. Guy around the corner took it, ran with Snickers, made $100 million. Stole my idea, right? Remember the old famous biblical story about the 12 Musketeers?
12 Musketeers?
Right. I had that. Guy did it, chopped 9, made a fortune, right? 3 Musketeers. Big story. You don't remember these things. These are the old days of advertising.
Yeah, it's very old days. You still have your company, do you?
Oh, sure. We call it RA.
RN?
RA.
RA.
Mm-hmm. Try to read my lips. RA.
RA.
Right.
What does that stand for?
Rip-off advertising. That's the name of my... Don't laugh. I've built a fortune on this company. I'm going to leave my son. Box of number 12 pencils is what he gets. It's all in my will.
I suppose you've seen the aging or maturing of the advertising game come about.
Oh, sure. It's getting much more mature now.
How is that?
Well, a couple of years ago, you couldn't say...
Not on my show.
It's one of my big accounts.
What other local campaigns have you handled, sir?
Oh, lots of biggies. One of my most successful campaigns. Mm-hmm. In fact, all I got to do is sing a little of it, and you will remember, and a big smile will come over your face.
Let's try it.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Little test.
Mm-hmm.
Test of advertising is when you sing the jingle, everybody knows.
Without mentioning the client's name.
Right.
Okay,
you ready?
Go ahead.
All I got to do is say, let's see, 4 or 5 words.
Do it.
Save $1 a day. That was mine. Want to make a deposit, you go down to LaGrange, and they'll swing pretty good for you down there.
Moving right along ever so quickly.
Yes, sir. Right.
You, I understand also from your fact sheet here, are very big in undergarments, women's undergarments.
Yes. You can't be afraid of the word. You got to come out and say to the ladies the actual word. Bras.
What?
Bras.
Bras.
Bras. B-R-A-S.
Yes, I thought we were going to, all right, do it with a little finesse, but since we're not,
go ahead. There's nothing wrong with the word bras. Women wear bras.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Bras.
Okay.
It's a nice word. Try it. Bras.
Bras.
See that? Didn't hurt a bit. Right. Okay.
Excuse me, I got a pink slip here. Anyway, all right, so what is your campaign in that area?
Well, there are a lot of different kinds of bras, and there are a lot of different kinds of women.
Right.
So you got to find the right bra for the right woman. Woman. Don't laugh at an old man. Been in this game. You weren't even born when I started in bras. I may walk out of here.
Well, Mr. Wright, it's been a pleasure having you with us this afternoon.
It's been my pleasure. You're a nice fella.
I want to thank you for dropping by.
You're a very nice young fella. When I was young, I was like you.
Well, that's good.
Before I leave, I want to tell you about a new campaign.
Mr. Wright, we are
for dentures. Fantastic product. You put your teeth in a drawer.
Mr. Wright,
you lock the drawer.
We really
and you leave the drawer.
to
then you
along.
flood the drawer with this blue stuff.
Mr. Wright,
as soon as the drawer explodes,
I don't mean to say anything.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Within the sound of silence.
At this point in my life, I was riding high. 2 well-received 90-minute specials almost back-to-back. I knew, though, that it would probably be a while before they would be interested in a 3rd special. And I had become used to the extra bucks. Well, better break out the new demo tape presentation and shop it around.
Hi, this is Jim Ferguson. Do you find yourself in need of a good production man? A man that's really sharp, on the ball? Oh, wait a minute. Let's do this right. You're about to hear a story of a man with a lust for greatness. A man that will not accept what is, but knows too well what could be and builds for it. A man that believes in giving the individual spot time buyer his fair share. You know, commercial time is useless to the individual spot time buyer unless particular attention is brought to his individual commercial. And that's the sole aim of yours truly, to build a truly great commercial for a great client. A man that believes not in ending commercials like this, nor this. But rather, what does the customer the most good? Examples, you say. All right, let's play. This is the kind of sound that comes out of that little radio over at Abercrombie's. It's the KLH-21. A small wooden case, a large, beautiful tone. Only $79.95 for this bit of magic. Listen to the KLH-21 while you browse through Abercrombie's. Chances are you'll take that lovely sound home under your arm. It's easy enough to carry. Abercrombie & Fitch, Royal Ponciano Plaza, Palm Beach. The necessity for continuous background music under a commercial is purely a figment of the imagination, as emphasized here.
I know a great secret. A genuine first.
Abercrombie & Fitch has decided to stay open all year long. They're not going to fold up their tents, not even their folding bicycles. Abercrombie is open from now on, over at the Poinciana Plaza. Let their sleeping bags lie. I'm off to Abercrombie's right now for a safari pith helmet and some real doodad accessories for my sports car. Abercrombie & Fitch, open all year long at the Poinciana Plaza.
Then, of course, we have the commercial with partial music. You know, browsing at Abercrombie's is one of my favorite sports. And now you can go there to listen to... I don't mean the duck calls and the bullhorns. There's a new sound over at Abercrombie's. That's it, the KLH-21 radio. A beautiful little set in a wooden case. It pours out this big, beautiful sound. See it and hear it at Abercrombie's, Royal Poinciana Plaza, Palm Beach. The national accounts seem to prefer straight-cut commercials. However, I feel local commercials and promotions can be quite effective when they're edited. Here's some examples. The sound of our city. And here's another sound of our town.
WJNO, open mic.
Great philosophers and famous scholars.
The other night we heard a very intelligent suggestion on this program.
About the Vietnam situation over there. Talking about tax, I can't even get my tax to know how much they are. I'd be thinking. You happen to know the definition of a rear view mirror?
And in the honey cut, the city gets the honey, and we get cut right across the neck.
The Open Mic program heard from 7:05 until 8 Monday through Friday on WJNO, the Palm Beach's leader.
If you like it hot, if you like it slow, if you like it with a beat, it's the Night Beat Show.
Hi, Jim Ferguson here, inviting you to come along for a song on WJNO's Night Beat Show from 8:05 until midnight.
Don't mumble, lad. Speak right up.
Is the heartbeat of the city. Faint is the light. And now from the special world of lovers, the sounds of a city at night.
You're riding high with the top of the morning show between 6 and 9 a.m. on WJNO Radio with your host with the most, Ron Becky. From the 30-year voice of the Palm Beaches, here's a golden WJNO radio wave. Since 1936, the people of the Palm Beaches have been singing the praise of WJNO.
And Lord, here we go again. WJNO.
Hey, now, Scotty, come on. Let me have my shoe. Scotty, you little rascal. I'm not playing. I mean it. Let me have my shoe. Scotty, come on now. Let me have my shoe. Here, nice doggy. That's it, nice Scotty. Here's your ball. Now, you play with the ball. Let me have my shoe. It's torn already. Holy smoke. There he goes down the street, shoe and all. Wouldn't you know, in my best pair, too. Martha, be back in a minute. Gotta go get Scotty. Now, where'd that little stinker go to? Hey, there he is. Look at him go. Hope he doesn't get run over. Lots of traffic in the shopping center. Oh, you rascal. There he goes in that doorway. Here, Scotty. Scotty, here, Scotty. Why, he turned into Danny's shoe repair. I can't believe it. That's what I call horse sense.
I also love doing 90-minute documentaries. Here's an example of one of the programs. For the next 90 minutes, we present John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the President of the United States. Just when did John F. Kennedy first raise his sights to the White House? Well, the exact time is difficult to pinpoint, for so well ordered were his ambitions that even close friends disagree on just when the presidential bug hit. But by 1960, the Kennedy style was becoming evident. Here now is an air check. Alrighty, let's emphasize the point of good sounds here at 1230.
Alone in the world was poor little lamb, as sweet a young child as you'd find, fashioned from Annie's despair. Give it a real thing.
Bobby Darin making those artificial flowers at 2 minutes before 9. It's a proven fact. You get more music more often on WJNO Radio. Change of pace and change of tempo on the WJNO Night Beat Show on this tuneful Tuesday as we head towards news. Here's Pete Drake. You're in tune with the Palm Beach's leader. This is WJNO Radio, 1230 West Palm Beach. From WJNO's Action News Central, here are the latest news headlines brought to you by Security Exchange Bank, corner of Belvedere Road and South Dixie Highway, West Palm Beach. You'll enjoy doing business with Security Exchange Bank, and you'll be proud to say, Security Exchange, that's my bank. Now, here are the latest news headlines. President Johnson made a speech-making tour of West Virginia and Pennsylvania, then returned to Washington. A stolen plane manned by 4 Canadian convicts who escaped from the Winnipeg prison is the object of a search in the United States and Canada. At least 9 persons died in a 3-car pileup on the Ohio Turnpike near Sandusky. Communist guerrillas attacked the base camp of the United States 1st Air Cavalry Division, killing some troops. We'll have the WJNO Weather Eye after this word.
Ever consider borrowing $50,000? Why not stop in at Security Exchange Bank tomorrow?
From WJNO's Weather Eye, first locally, it'll be partly cloudy through Monday with widely scattered afternoon showers. Shower probability 30%. Our winds will be east to southeasterly at 5 to 15 miles per hour. Low this evening 75, high tomorrow 90, low tomorrow evening 75. Presently outside it's 81, that's 81 degrees, humidity 75%, wind easterly at 6, barometric pressure 30.03, and steady. Here now is an advisory issued by the San Juan, Puerto Rico Weather Bureau at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on a tropical depression. The tropical depression east of the Lesser Antilles continues a slow motion toward the west-northwest at 8 miles an hour with no change in intensity.
A station in Fayetteville, North Carolina, WFLB, was going through a change of ownership and programming and was looking for a production manager. They had heard my tape and was interested. Come on up and let's talk. Well, sounded big time to me. In Florida, they have a way of selling the sunshine. That is, they usually pay a lot less because there are a lot of announcers and disc jockeys that want to work there because of the weather. Simply put, they're tired of northern winters. WFLB pretty much knew what I was making and was ready to double it, but they wanted to meet face-to-face first.
We are aboard the Delta Whisper jet, and it is certainly that. A very, very quiet aircraft indeed. We are at this time just finishing the boarding here at the West Palm Beach terminal. The people are still coming aboard. Very, very, very quiet aircraft. This flight is the first flight that we've ever taken of any type, and we have just noticed the fasten your seatbelt and no smoking sign, and we were very quick to comply. You can hear now the engines being tested out. Throughout the craft there's a slight vibration, the feeling of a great amount of power.
Good morning. It's nice to have you with us on Flight 384. Please notice the card in the seat pocket in front of you describing the safety features of this airplane. There you will also find your personal copy of the mainline of magazines. If oxygen masks are ever required due to any unscheduled change in cabin altitude, they will automatically appear near your seat. Extinguish cigarettes, then simply place the mask over nose and mouth as shown and breathe normally until advised. Please look around and note that there's a door on the left side of the aircraft at the front, on the right side in the middle, and one at the rear. Also, there are 4 window exits in the rear compartment over the wings. Every exit is marked with the word exit. There are also signs overhead to help you locate the exit. Please do not smoke or release your seatbelt until the sign goes off. Thank you.
And with the final word, thank you, the plane begins to move very slowly, very surely down the runway. The aircraft makes a slow arc in a complete circle and taxis out to the main runway. We look out to our left and see the ailerons of the wings moving into their proper position for takeoff. A national aircraft just goes up the other runway on its way for takeoff. We are now taxiing down one of the taxi strips to the main runways. The aircraft makes a break as it comes around the taxiway. The jets are still going at their high intensity. Apparently this is, well, you'll hear the engines rev up at this time. Everyone else is very calm, relaxed, chatting to one another. A bit, to be honest, a bit excited. I know we certainly are, since this is our first flight. Matter of fact, we're finding it a little difficult to hold the microphone steady, but I'm sure it only takes one flight to build all the confidence in the world. At this time, the adrenaline is being pumped through the body. It's an anticipation adrenaline that surges through one's body when something is about to happen of great significance. And it certainly is.
Getting our takeoff clearance now. We're starting our takeoff in just a second. Our flight time will be 30 minutes. Hope you'll enjoy your flight.
And with that, the aircraft taxis down the taxiway and now enters the runway. We're a little bit turned around here as to exactly which runway it is, but this is the one. You can be sure of that. An acceleration that one finds very difficult to imagine, a tremendous acceleration, and bouncing across the runway, and up once again, off we go. We are, goodness gracious, the acceleration is tremendous. We can look down and see for miles and miles. It's much like there's a buzzing going through the craft. She's shaking just a little bit. The wings are bouncing just a little bit. But it's, I would imagine, much like many, many flights. We are apparently banking to the left at this time in a slow, slow bank. We're trying to get our bearings. Apparently we're over the turnpike. We have C-Star left bank, and we are at this moment just accelerating at a very rapid rate. We can see at the top, we can see a layer of clouds above us. Look below us, and it's like they say, sure enough, the world is carved up into squares. The land below you looks just like many, many squares all together. The top layer of clouds is coming closer into view at this time. It's just like the advertising says, flying is great.
Imagine me and you, I do. I think about you day and night. It's only right to think about the girl you love and hold her tight. So happy together.
My face-to-face meeting with the guys at WFLB went well. They were very confident I could do the job, and I liked the staff. They were younger, and the station was top 40, right down my alley.
Hey, that's Question Mark. The Mysterians can't get enough of you, baby. Good morning to you. 22 Product 7.
Wholesome bread is that good. Milk good, that's good. The bread to buy. It's that good.
Thank you for a beautiful story there. 21 and a half, Product 7, Sonny and Cher.
What's your name?
All-American Super Hit Extra on All-American Chap Time, 19 for Product 7.
Where's the action? Hundreds of winners at every participating SO station.
And here's some of the recent Tiger Reno winners. Mrs. N.G. Richardson of Roper won $50 at Minshew's SO in Williamston. And Bradley Berry of Englehart won $50 at the Mighty at SO. Have you played Tiger Reno? Hundreds of winners at every participating SO station. Ask your SO dealer for a free Tiger Reno ticket. No purchase necessary, and you may win cash prizes up to $1,000.
You don't drive a big fast car,
but baby, you got what it takes. Dave Clark 5. Good morning to you. 16 before 7.
Here is an important message from Mr. Thurman Bishop, Chief, Fayetteville Fire Department.
Our Public Works Commission says that Fayetteville's future
There will be no tax levy, no increase in utility rates.
Herb Alpert, the Tijuana Brass, Casino Royal. 12 and a half, Product 7. Casino Royal, Herb Alpert, the Tijuana Brass, All-American Super Hit, Wax to Watts. 55 degrees in Center City.
Try something new at your next party. New Schlitz Malt Lager on the rocks. Smooth enough to drink straight up.
That's where it's all happening, my good friend at the zoo, Simon and Garfunkel, and this week's Super Hit 12 on the Super Hit line. Good morning to you. This being a Monday and all, the 24th day of April, 1967.
Is the fast pace of today's business world getting you down? Stop and relax and make arrangements to spend your stay at the Surf Motel. That's the Surf Motel, Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. Post Office Box 1.
Thank you, Jeff Thompson. All-American Chap Time, 9 Friday 7. Time to wake up those... Alrighty, that's it. That's Nancy Sinatra. Love our Super Hit 22.
Fayetteville needs doers. Vote Denny Schaefer for City Council, and you'll be casting your vote for a better Fayetteville. Be safer. Vote Schaefer for City Council. The preceding a paid political announcement.
Every mother's son entertains right now. Come on down to my boat, baby. My boat, not my moat. I have my boat parked in my moat.
Come on down, my boat, baby. Come on down where we can play.
Feel free just to come on down and drop me a line first, though, please.
Another fairy tale for grown-ups, Jack and the Beanstalk. Once upon a time, a boy named Jack sold his poor mother's cow for a handful of beans.
You numbskull.
Ouch! Moral, if you're loaded down with bills, stop wishing, stop worrying. Dial for get-ahead cash. You could live happily ever after.
You dial finance right now, 483-4105, and live happy ever after. And would you believe that's the nitty-gritty dirt band and Buy For Me the Rain?
It happens first on All-American WFLB in Fayetteville.
At the Toad at All-American, 7 a.m.
All the weather's on American WFLB.
Variable cloudiness and mild today with showers and scattered thunder showers, plus a risk of isolated severe thunderstorms, mainly late this morning and this afternoon. High today, 70s in the north and around 80 in the south portion. Fair to partly cloudy and cooler tonight and Tuesday. Low tonight, mostly 46 up near 50 along the south coast. High Tuesday, 63 to 70 in the north, 69 to 75 in the south portion. And the outlook for Tuesday night and Wednesday, variable cloudiness and somewhat warmer with scattered showers likely. Breaks out of the Righteous Brothers, Melancholy Music Man.
Hi, friends. Bert Parks here with a new sound to a familiar theme.
Because you love them. Look to Life of Georgia.
Outside temperature 55 degrees, courtesy of
WFLB. Girl, you'll be a woman soon.
All-American Jam Time, 7:10, Neil Diamond. At Super Hit 9 of the Super Hit line, Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon.
At Coates Motors, your volume American Motors Rambler dealer on Bragg Boulevard, you can select from a huge, varied selection of dependable used cars.
If you're shopping for a fine used car, get quality.
That's Coates Motors, 2 lots on Bragg Boulevard, where 98% of their customers are satisfied customers.
Oh, yes. Thank you so very much. Jeff Thompson, heard on
WFLB.
All-American Jam Time, 7:14.
All-American Golden Classic.
Every time you kiss me, I'm still not certain that you love me.
Terry Sanford in Suspicion. Sounds a little suspect to me there. I don't see how it's possible, how it's true, but it is.
Now, from 1 Hour Chlorotizing, the most fantastic offer you've ever heard. That's 1 Hour Chlorotizing, 5 locations, 128 Donaldson Street, 529 Hay Street, 235 Gillespie Street, on Bragg Boulevard at the crossover, and on Rayford Road at the Hope Mills Road intersection. 1 Hour Chlorotizing.
Thank you, sir, at 7:12. +5, 7:17. Good morning time, 55 degrees. Our high prognosticated for today, 70s in the north and 80s in the southern portion. And no matter what the weather, what the day, what the hour, what the time, more and more families are depending on Professional Drug Company for prescription service and hundreds of other items. Professional Drug, 1637 Owen Drive, is convenient to the doctor's offices and clinics in the area, just across the street from Cape Fear Valley Hospital. Drop by Professional Drug for vitamins, tonics, home remedies, first aid supplies, baby care needs, hair care items, greeting cards, and school supplies. Gift suggestions for all occasions, plus several lines of candies, cosmetics, and men's toiletries. Select from a large display of toys and games. But of course, the most important part of their business is filling prescriptions. Bring your prescription by or have your doctor phone it to Professional Drug. Open a charge account and pay monthly for an accurate record of all your tax-deductible purchases. Depend on Professional Drug, 1637 Owen Drive, across from Cape Fear Valley Hospital. Trained, experienced pharmacist and free delivery service await you at Professional Drug Company.
1490 WFLB. All-American.
Who is the largest volume automobile dealer in the whole area? Why, Lafayette Ford, of course. Right, and who gives you the most money for your car on trade? Any car you trade.
I have to admit it's Lafayette Ford. It gave me the best deal anyway.
And who gives you the best price on a new car?
All right, sorry I question you. It's got to be Lafayette Ford because I see where they're selling 1967 Mustangs for only $22.70 or just $49.79 per month after 1/3 down payment.
That's what I mean. Big volume sales naturally gives Lafayette an edge on the competition. That goes for the deal, the trade, and the service. It just stands to reason it takes the largest dealer to save you the most money. By the way, what did you say I can buy a 67 Mustang for at Lafayette Ford?
Only $22.70, or you can pay $49.79 per month.
Wow, I'm on my way to Lafayette Ford. Coming?
No, I've been. Hey, today being a Monday and all, for lunch in Fayetteville City Schools, you'll be experiencing yum-yums on rice, buttered green peas, carrot sticks, hot rolls, and butter, orange juice, plus milk.
If you're a man who babies your car, a man who eats out only at the finest restaurants, who enjoys the thrill of a fast track in the solitude of a country estate, you're a rare breed. A man that demands...
Presented by 1 Hour Chlorotizing. A brief synopsis and analyzation of the weather forecast. Fair to partly cloudy and somewhat colder today. Presently, 38 degrees prevails in the Fayetteville-Fort Bragg area.
All-American 1490. Consistently comes up with the winning play.
We've received lots of cards and letters regards our cuckoos on our singing jingles, and that can easily be explained. The other week at a basketball game, our WFLB banner was stolen, which had WFLB Fayetteville, North Carolina boldly emblazoned upon it. If you know the whereabouts of this flag and would like to pick up a $25 savings bond, you bring it to us, and you will receive a $25 savings bond.
Need a car? See, the only deals they miss are the ones they don't know about.
This is a March 8th morning, if you're wondering. Let's do it one time.
Another All-American winner with 1490.
sunshine song.
Roger Miller, newest release, Walking in the Sunshine. 6:09, All-American. Good morning time to you. If you're driving on the city streets, highways, or byways, by all means, do drive with care. It's a Wednesday out there. And Wednesdays are sort of middle of the week, don't care too much time, so you drive safely and care enough to do so. You perhaps may not be late this morning, or you may be late this morning, but not permanently late.
One of the most beautiful than a glass of milk. It's that good.
All right, 6:10, good morning time, 38 degrees downtown and in the Fayetteville-Fort Bragg area in general. Speaking of food, here's what you'll be having in Fayetteville City Schools for lunch today. Roast beef with gravy, mashed potatoes, green beans. What is this? To do some kind of biscuits. This is about the 15,000th copy, and it's a little thin there to read. Some kind of biscuits and butter, grilled grapefruit cup, and milk. So that's what you'll be having for lunch today in schools. You perchance may see me there.
$14.90.
High Finance for Get Ahead Cash.
Pick up that phone right now and dial 483-4105.
Hi, I'm Susan.
I'm Don. I'm Paul. We're the Pozo Seco Singers, asking you to keep swinging with All-American Jim Ferguson.
That's what I was going to say.
American Golden Classic.
Bobby Goldsboro.
You make a rose afraid to grow.
Just what I wanted at 6:14, a voodoo woman.
Main roadside Ford Country.
That's what it is, Ford Country on All-American Radio. Good morning to you. If you're just getting up, good morning. If you're still in bed but listening, good morning. It's get up and get at it time right now. Weatherman says it's going to be fair to partly cloudy today. Our high should be around the 50-degree weather bracket.
What evil lurks in the minds of men?
Oh, what's that got to do with anything?
The WFLB call letters have been stolen.
Oh? How'd that happen?
At a basketball game the other night, the WFLB banner was stolen.
Stolen?
By a souvenir hunter.
A souvenir hunter.
Listen.
All-American.
See? Yes. It'll never sound the same until we find our banner with the WFLB call letters.
Well, what are we going to do about it, man?
We're offering a $25 savings
savings
That's right, to the person who returns our banner. So that once again, we'll sound as we should.
How? Oh, like this?
Right!
All right! Let's go!
WFLB.
Wonderful!
I understand what you mean now.
Please bring us our banner,
and you'll get the money.
On a Sunday afternoon.
By the time I came to WFLB, I was 22 years old, the youngest jock by far at the radio station. But I'd already worked at 4 other stations before then, so I was ready.
You're listening to the All-Americans, planning for your entertainment. This week on All-American Radio, you'll hear these super hits.
Coming on strong.
Holy cow. If I were a carpenter, dandy.
Yes, more minutes of the music you want to hear are heard on
1490 WFLB. Hooray for All-American.
Parker House of Music and Atlantic Records present Beach Beat, featuring songs enjoyed in the summer sun and surf by young people everywhere.
Beach Beat, now in stock and available at Parker House of Music, 411 Hay Street for only $2.50. Beach Beat.
There go my baby.
Sing with the string of my heart.
Beach Beat.
See rider.
Only $2.50.
Have a little mess and get
some honey now.
At Parker House of Music,
I wanna thank you, John.
all your favorite summer hits.
Just one look, and I felt so hard.
Beach Beat.
What did you live? Was the cause of it all?
Now at Parker House of Music.
Coates Motors used car hard sell commercial, cut 1.
And now.
Go ahead, Frankie. Give it all you got.
I don't bust my hand.
Well, Coates Motors said give it all you got.
Would you believe I just did?
Frankie, you gotta sell those Coates Motors used cars.
Watch it, you're gonna bust your hand.
Think, Frankie, think.
Got it. A magical Coates Motors used car psychedelic dream. Ready?
Frankie, you've done it for Coates again.
Stab auto set, magical Coates Motors used car psychedelic dream, cut 1.
What'd he say?
Who knows? Let's do it and get it over with.
I dreamed I was riding in my Coates Motors used car in my maiden form.
You sure do have weird dreams.
Frankie, let's give it that old buffalo off the shuffle-os.
All together now. No matter how far, through dust and through tar, a Coates Motors used car will get you far. Come on, Maggie. Let's go out to Coates Motors on the boulevard and see if we can sell this thing.
Let me straighten your tie.
This commercial certainly has been a rambler.
A Coates Rambler.
Mother, I tell you what, I just feel awful about forgetting Mother's Day.
Certainly should.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd like to try to make it up to you if I could.
Try.
All right? I've got it. It'll almost seem like Mother's Day all over again this weekend if we go to the Biff Burger, where they're repeating the Mother's Day weekend special they ran all weekend last week. They're going to do it all over again for people like me who forgot.
That's just great. We all go down to the Biff Burger and I have to pay for it.
No. We'll pretend it's Mother's Day, and I'll buy.
Last Mother's Day I bought.
Well, I'll buy this Mother's Day. You get a double helping because it's only going to cost 89 cents for a complete dinner on special. Shrimp, hush puppies, French fries, homemade tartar sauce that you almost as good as yours, man. It's out of sight, yeah. It's psychology. Slaw, too. Good homemade slaw. Biff Burger.
How much?
89 cents, and I'll pick it up. I'll pick up the tab.
You sure?
That's right.
Only 89 cents. That's my boy. Mom didn't raise no fool.
Big and juicy, yummy, yum. It's the best in town.
Hey, George!
I'm right here, Ira.
I'm sorry, I didn't expect that fast response. Listen,
yeah,
I believe we have a job.
Oh, well, finally.
It's
wonderful.
Difficult, but I believe the more...
George and Ira Gershwin have a job.
Seems like the more we do, the less calls we get. Well, listen,
what do we
anyway,
got
this
here?
one's called the Highland Lounge.
What?
Highland Lounge? You're familiar with it?
Right.
The Highland Lounge.
Girls. Whew.
Oh, yes, you've been out there, have you?
Hey, you want us to do a jingle?
Right.
All right, I'll tell you what.
Right.
I'll work on the music. You figure out the lyrics.
All right.
Boom,
There's
boom,
no...
boom, boom,
hold on
boom.
to the booms for just a little bit. A little softer on the booms yet. There's no place else to go this Wednesday but the Highland Lounge in the Highland Village on Rayford Road. Because they're going to have a red-hot band for entertainment, plus those go-go girls you were talking about there. It makes it the swingin'est place in town.
Sort of a 3/4 foxtrot. They could probably get it.
All right, let's get it. There's no place else to go except the Highland Lounge, because it happens to be the swingin'est place in town.
Let's give this one to Jolson.
All right.
The year 1732. Through the magic of radio, you are there.
The early years.
Now, wife, there's no two ways about it. I know you're doing the best you can, but it's gotta be a boy. History awaits him. He might even be president.
And so it was, and so it is. Vincent Shields Carpet Company is having a George Washington birthday extravaganza. Yes, Vincent Shields Carpet Company, 3117 Fort Bragg Road, is having 2 big days of great savings for you on carpeting of your choice. The days, Tuesday and Wednesday. 30 by 36 hall runners, only $1 per foot. Economy quality nylon carpeting, only $2.99 per yard. At Vincent Shields Carpet Company, home of PQS, Price Quality Service.
I'm from the daughters of the American
Later.
Just throw this car over there.
What happened here?
Well, obviously, I believe he lost control of the car. He was right in front of him. He can tell you more about it.
Well, I started around him up there at the stop sign, and I was meeting this car, and he's speeded up, you know, and I got back in front of him and the other car, and he kept coming up on my bumper, you know, and then he just went off the road over there, and all I know, he was out in the field.
With whom am I speaking?
Freddie Jackson.
What condition is he now?
I don't know. You can talk with the patrolman. I don't think there's anything wrong with him.
When driving over Carolina highways, drive safely. Death is but a poor present. This has been a public service announcement from WFLB, the station that really cares.
Hello again, this is George P. Snidely. We're covering the annual George Washington Tree Chopping Contest. George, how you doing, George?
Fine, George. Snidely?
Smidley.
Smedley.
Your name?
Oh, Washington, my name. Yes, I chop a tree annually.
You annually chop a tree?
Right.
What type of tree is that, George?
It's an annual.
Oh, I see. Listen.
Martha wanted to bake a pie tonight. I told her I'd take care of that. As father of my country, I feel like I have
great, George. You concentrate on the tree. The tree, George. Yeah, right. Listen, I am from Tarts TV. They're celebrating your birthday. George Washington extravaganza. No royalties, George.
Washington with me.
Yes, listen, they have you've got to see the Sweet 16 RCA Victor portable TV for only $88.
I'll put him on my payroll.
Washington, was that?
No, Tart.
Oh,
yes. Good
your
man.
name. Hello, Tart. Glad to meet you. Washington. Smidley.
Yeah, father of our country here.
Father?
Yeah.
I've got to go. I think you're about to do it.
Look out! Sam, get out there and wait on that car while I answer the telephone.
Wait, I'll get the door.
These Biff burgers are just selling out of sight. Get the door, but there's another telephone call. Call the employment agency. These Biff burgers are selling like hotcakes.
I don't even know how to make them. Let's see. I would read the Biff Burger Bender instruction sheet. Page 4, paragraph 9, sentence 9. At Biff Burgers, both locations, 3241 Bragg Boulevard and 205 Bragg Boulevard, you can receive 2 Biff Burgers, French fries, and a soft drink for only 48 cents. Yes, it's the Big Biff Burger Bender.
This offer ends Sunday if we make it.
Well, Charlie, here we are, 3241 Bragg Boulevard.
Home of the Biff Burger.
Right.
Hey, what's the crowd?
I don't know. Hey, what? Hey, what's the crowd over there?
Hey, the Biffy girls.
What?
The Biffy girls.
Biffy girls? I don't see a girl.
May I help you?
Yes. Are you, what are you?
I'm a Biffy girl, sir.
Biffy girl?
You can call me Biff.
Oh, Biff? I would like 7 Biff Burgers for only $1.
Right. You must have heard our advertising.
I heard it on WFLB.
Oh, right.
Right.
Sight, Jim Ferguson show. Would you like anything else, sir?
The shrimp box, 11 shrimp jumbo type. How much are they?
Oh, just 92 cents with French fries and coleslaw and a toasted bun.
All of them?
Right. 11 of them.
11? Jumbo.
With Biffy girl service.
Oh, right. Thank you.
Yours truly.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, well, she's gone there. What? Some Biff Burger girl.
Hey,
Biffy girl.
There's another Biff Burger.
205 Bragg
Boulevard.
Right.
Let's go down and check out the Biff Burger.
Yeah, you get a ribeye steak for 85 cents.
Biffy girls.
A special announcement from the Pink Pussycat.
We're sorry to announce that Zsa Zsa Gabor will not be appearing at the Pink Pussycat tonight. She was called off on an important diplomatic assignment. And the Pink Pussycat, aware of international developments of late, thought it would be best for the country that she go. So reluctantly, they released her from her engagement. However, in her place tonight at the Pink Pussycat, you'll see the Checkmates. The Checkmates subbing for Zsa Zsa Gabor? Well, I guess we did the best we could. You come on out tonight and see Zsa Zsa Gabor's replacement, the Pink Pussycat, located where Bragg Boulevard meets Fort Bragg Road. And you can always find your favorite beverage ice cold, all the way even to Kool-Aid. And always dance to the music of a live band. And Wednesday night is Ladies' Night. Yes, if you ladies don't have a date, you do with the Pink Pussycat. Remember tonight, live on stage, see Zsa Zsa Gabor's replacement, the Checkmates at the
Pink Pussycat.
The name's Tuesday. I'm with the Better Food Administration. We were conducting weekend shakedowns, which is very odd, having Tuesday work on the weekends, but it was overtime. Nonetheless, there in front of my eyes it was.
Hey, George, what are you stopping here for? This is the Biff Burger. Oh, yeah. I see now, yes. Weekend shake. The best in town. Try one and see for yourself. Oh. Yes, no matter who you are, you'll be stopping into the Biff Burger, either 205 or 3241 Bragg Boulevard. This weekend, try that chocolate or vanilla shake. Or this weekend, choose from 7 different flavored drinks. And now, here's this weekend's special at your Biff Burger. A shrimp basket with a full 2 ounces of Biff's own homemade tartar sauce and 3 hush puppies, all for only 97 cents. Come by either location of Biff Burger this weekend and enjoy some of the best food in town. Also, the least expensive. Biff Burger.
Right, Tuesday.
Or any day, for that matter.
Hey, come here. Have you heard it's coming next week?
That's right, Mabel. It's coming next week.
Ahoy there! It's coming next week! Step right up and prepare yourself for it coming next week!
Reports reaching our news desk indicate it'll be here next week. Here it comes!
Yes, coming next week, the brand new Eldridge American Service Station on the corner of McPherson Church and Morganton Road.
They'll check your tires, oil and water, wipe the windshield, check the battery, wash it and grease it and fill the gas tank too, 'cause they give service, S-E-R-V-I-C-E.
Joe Eldridge, experienced American Oil Company representative, is opening up a new American service station. Nothing beats years of experience, and Joe Eldridge and his expertly trained American Oil staff stand ready to don their gear and do bumper-to-bumper service for safe and reliable driving. You expect more from American, and you get it.
This has to be the best steak I've ever had. It really makes the evening, you know.
Well, that's why I brought you to Richmond Steakhouse in the first place. Nothing but the best for my girl.
Oh, Charlie, I'm in love.
Well, I just knew it was bound to happen.
You know, when somebody really cares and goes out of their way to please, it's hard to resist them. Someone that's always pleasant and still quite the perfectionist in his work.
Well, that's just the way I am.
I'm in love, Charlie.
Really?
With Richmond Steakhouse.
A sizzling steak, tender and juicy with all the delicious trimmings, is awaiting you at Richmond Steakhouse, located just 2 miles south of the Market House on 301. If you're traveling, come as you are. Richmond Steakhouse, near the finest quality and 3A motels of the area, and right next to the McGinnis Motel. Richmond's, recommended by Diners Club, American Express, and Hilton. Look for the sign with a steer on top. Richmond Steakhouse.
In Fayetteville, there was a car dealership called Royal Dodge. I began doing all of their radio spot production. We came up with the original concept of Royal Dodge, the king of Dodge dealers. A simple positioning statement that led to 1,000 manifestations, each one topping the last. The town was captivated and was always ready for the next episode. And that put me on top of the expert's throne.
All right, cue the horns. No, not those horns, the other ones.
Right, Your Majesty.
As King of Royal Dodgedom, I command all of my subjects to listen to this following official proclamation. I, the King of Royal Dodgedom, speak.
Certainly did, Your Majesty.
Hold it down there, subject. We at Royal Dodge in Fayetteville have become North Carolina's largest volume Dodge dealer, the King of Dodge dealers.
Let's hear it for the king.
And now, for you, I have over $500,000 worth of 68 Dodges in my inventory for immediate delivery.
Yes, it's true. The king of Dodge dealers is Royal Dodge, 1045 Bragg Boulevard. Whether your favorite B-Dart, Cornet, Polara, Monaco, or the car of the century, the Charger, the Clean Machine, the Dodge of your choice awaits you at Royal Dodge, 1045 Bragg Boulevard, king of Dodge dealers.
His Majesty speaketh.
Speaketh?
Speaketh.
We got him. I have composed a piece of poetical presentation for this time of the year for all of you out there in Royal Dodgedom.
His Majesty speaketh.
Pull it. You're pushing your knighthood. Little musical accompaniment would go here, I believe. 'Tis Christmas time in Royal Dodgedom, a time for making merry and cheer. Loyal subjects, hear my words. Make this the merriest Christmas ever this year. In my inventory, I have a selection of the coolest Dodges in recollection. Yes, Dodges everywhere. A Dodge for you, and one to spare. Dart, Coronet, Polaro, Monaco, or the car of the century, Charger. Regardless of make or price, the selection has never been larger. That'll do it, I believe. Merry Christmas to everyone in Royal Dodgedom! Knave, what are you doing to my wall?
I am posting an official bulletin.
Not on my wall, I mean...
Well, the king is overstocked.
Last time I saw the king, he looked like he was overstuffed.
Jeez, it, the king.
Hello, Your Majesty. Overstuffed indeed. Hit it, boys. I, the king of Royal Dodgedom, am overstuffed, stocked. But rather than raise the taxes, I have a brilliant idea.
Here we go, a 10% surcharge on cosmetics.
Nay, knave. Nay, knave? Look that up. I proclaim a first of the year overstock sale in Royal Dodgedom.
Let's hear it for the king.
Ruling is so difficult these days. Yes, huge savings await you on way over $500,000 worth of 68 Dodges at Royal Dodge, 1045 Bragg Boulevard. King of Dodge Dealers. Good evening. In the top news stories of today, the king goes barnstorming. That and other stories following this.
See the Dodge boys.
This morning, in the thriving community of Bonnie Doon, the king of Royal Dodgedom once again reiterated his campaign plank.
My campaign promise this year is, hit the thing, boys, a Dodge in every garage.
From Bonnie Doon, the king's caravan, composed of 23 Dodge Chargers, motivated to Skybo, where he made a bid for total Dodge unity.
Both the straight Dodge slate in 68.
More news in a moment.
You can cure Dodge fever at the Dodge boys.
In an exclusive interview with Ken Sterling, famed political analyst, this evening, the king said, "Vote yourself out of the low-price class, knave, and go Polara, the prestige pick."
The Dodge boys have dealer fever.
See Royal Dodge, king of Dodge dealers. After being overstocked for months with many king-conditioned used cars in Royal Dodgedom, the king seeks help.
Now, what seems to be the problem with Your Majesty?
Well, so soothsayer, it's like this. I'm beginning to doubt
your ability to lead the people.
I'm beginning to doubt...
yourself in general?
I'm beginning to doubt that indeed I do need a royal soothsayer.
And a soothsayer, they...
Quiet! I'm beginning to doubt that my people in Royal Dodgedom want king-conditioned used cars in preference to, say, new Chargers. I turn to the royal soothsayer for brilliant guidance.
Oh, give me your huddled mass.
Hold it down there. I don't want to have to pay royalties on top of this.
King, the answer to your problem is directionally proportional to the implied advancements of the Charger.
For that, I pay $23 a month.
20 take-home.
Gee.
Yeah.
Royal Dodge, king of Dodge dealers. All right, what may I do for you, knave?
Your Majesty, I am Sergeant Thursday, United States Internal Revenue Service.
Oh, yes? I believe I sent the bill in a week or so ago.
That is the reason I'm here.
Was there some type of discrepancy? I thought it rather clear myself. I mean, everybody in Royal Dodgedom has a stake in the future, Dodge in every garage, etc., you know.
Your Majesty...
Now listen, if the United States is running a little short, we in Royal Dodgedom are rather understanding.
Your Majesty, you owe us.
Whom?
The United States government.
Oh, really? How does that fit, image-wise?
You see, everybody in the United States will pay the surcharge.
Oh, hold on just a second there. You see, with our new expansion program, my royal surveyors say we're now bigger than the United States. So rather than Royal Dodgedom in the United States, in reality, it's the United States and Royal Dodgedom, hence you owe us. And now, as I said, if it's a case of money, I'm sure my royal accountant could advance you, say, Royal Dodge, king of Dodge dealers. Now, about stealing the surcharge line. Last month, the king sent out arrows proclaiming he was overstocked with king-conditioned used cars. This month...
King, look at the arrow.
Let's see what it says here. Dear King, this is an answer to your arrow bombardment of Royal Dodgedom last month. Be advised, it's difficult enough for my men to get around out here without being captured, let alone having to duck those ridiculous arrows of yours. Signed, Rob Hood.
Why, the nerve of him actually writing to the king.
But wait. Take a quick memo.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Dear sirs, understand you have transportation problem in forest. Have large selection, king condition used cars. Ideal your situation.
A little more dramatic, maybe.
Do not intend revising history. We'll let you have them at steel. Signed, Royal Dodge, home of king condition used cars.
Heary, heary! The king delivers another stirring proclamation to all those in Royal Dodgedom.
Your king, being in complete control of almost everything that is...
Oh, boy, here it comes.
...has come to the conclusion that there's simply not enough royalty in Royal Dodgedom.
Probably be bowing 3 times now instead of the mandatory 2.
Therefore, acting with a power invested in me by you, loyal subjects one and all, except for a few, I have decided something must be done. We shall begin our new royalty campaign by renaming Bragg Boulevard Royal Boulevard. This may cause certain repercussions from our nearby military neighbors.
Sir, there are troops marching on Royal Dodgedom.
Splendid! Show them in.
The tanks, too?
Suppose we can give them some kind of trade-in. Royal Dodge, 1045 Bragg Boulevard, king of Dodge dealers.
Gee, if there's anything I like, it's a parade.
Fellow knights of the Round Table, we are gathered here to ascertain exactly who it was that placed that ridiculous rhyme in the village newspaper.
You mean the one that says, give the king a ring?
Yes, give the king a ring. That's the one.
Do you realize, are you cognizant of the fact that we've had to double our telephone maidens, install new telephones, and not only that, but construct new royal offices to put it all in?
All because some nut put in the paper, give the king a ring.
Can you imagine what the king would do if he were to ever hear of it?
Shh, here he comes.
Oh, give the king a ring and do it today. Give the king a ring, that's what I say. Sir, I've been meaning to speak to you about that. It's absolutely brilliant, don't you think so?
It is? It is. Yes, it certainly is. Give the king a ring. Like it. Royal Dodge, 1045 Bragg Boulevard. Give the king a ring.
Election time 68 in Royal Dodgedom. Here with his annual campaign speech, the king.
Thank you, my subjects. This year, my campaign topic is a rather simple one, but on the other hand, a very important one to us all here in Royal Dodgedom. In everyone's life, at one time or another, comes the desire to live a little, to rise above the commonplace that is every day. To this, man's ultimate goal, I, your king at present, do abide. My campaign promise this year is, hit the theme, boys, a Dodge in every garage. Yes, a Royal Dodge in every garage. But I need your support. Cast your ballot this year for a Dodge in every garage.
Royal Dodge, king of Dodge dealers. The king has a problem. He's overstocked with good used cars that were trade-ins. We take you now to the old clock tower.
His Royal Majesty, the King.
Thank you, Benny. You've been summoned to Royal Dodgedom because you're the finest bowman in the land. You probably already have noticed the specially constructed arrows.
Saith, King, what these arrows carrieth?
They carry the word that our used car stock runneth over here in Royal Dodgedom. My cup runneth over. Hold it up there, Sir Edward. Places, everyone. On my signal, we shall fling the word afar. Now. The deed is done. For the finest in reunited used cars, see Royal Dodge, 1045 Bragg Boulevard. King of Dodge dealers.
His Royal Majesty, the King, delivers a first anniversary
anniversary proclamation.
Loyal subjects one and all, I'm happy to proclaim the first anniversary of Royal Dodgedom. It was just 1 year ago that I assumed the royal throndom. Since then, we've made tremendous progress. 6 months after becoming your king, Royal Dodgedom became North Carolina's largest volume Dodge dealer, conducted a first-of-the-year stock sale, introduced the Super Bee to Royal Dodgedom, placed ridiculous rhymes in the village newspaper, and finally we launched a new royalty campaign, and in so doing renamed Bragg Boulevard Royal Boulevard. My accomplishments have been many. And now, a giant first anniversary sale here in Royal Dodgedom. Just my way of thanking you for being so shrewd in selecting such a brilliant king. Me. And besides, I'd like a good deal on a new Super Bee myself. Royal Dodge, 1045 Royal Boulevard.